right, we're going to begin in Ghana, where inflation has decelerated. Headline inflation decelerated for an 8th month in a row. 11.5% is the headline figure. That's the year on year. July, 12.1. This, of course, is a 4-year low for the consumer price index over in the land of the Black Stars. And that, of course, is raising questions as to whether or not we will see another rate cut, which, of course, we got a 300 basis point cut back in July from the Monetary Policy Committee. And of course, the next meeting is on September the 17th. All right, let's head to Accra and speak with Winston Taki, business journalist, also analyst, about these figures. Winston, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. What's been the trigger behind this deceleration in inflation in Ghana?
Thank you for having me. Good morning to all your viewers as well. This year's inflation numbers have been quite interesting. You know, inflation slowed from 37% in early 2024 to 11.5% in August 2025. This basically was driven by the Bank of Ghana raising the interest rate to as high as 28% last year. Which have cooled down prices, and we saw some marginal adjustments by over 300 basis points early in the last MPC meeting. And this means the central bank has been able to attain its MBA inflation target of approximately 12%, which is just little than from 9%, which the central bank has targeted for 2025. Certainly, subject to market dynamics, many are quite
unsure whether this will affect the outlook in the next pricing window, which is basically going into the next quarter of this year. So one thing that many were quite looking forward to, whether this will affect the outlook of the currency, which has seen some marginal depreciation in the last week. Initially, we had a great appreciation of up to about 40% in terms of appreciation, making the city one of the best performing currency globally. And compared to that, we've seen last oil prices drop by 20% as of last year, easing local costs. And also, we've also witnessed some appreciation in the first quarter of 2025. And this has boosted the outlook for the inflation numbers.
Now, we had a big rate cut in July, 300 basis points to 25%. What do you expect for the September meeting, which, funny enough, is on the same day as the US, the FOMC? But could we see another cut? I mean, with this continued deceleration in inflation?
You know, it's interesting. You know, when it comes to sustaining inflation declines, it requires keeping the budget near 5% of gross domestic product. That is down from over 10% in 2023, which we experienced as a country. And the central banks has been cautious enough to adjust or keep the interest rates controlled. And also there's been a planning to gradually ease the interest rate to basically about 23% before the close of this year. Which is, it's interesting to also know that keeping a city stable is a key consideration in this matter, because most of the importers and exporters are always looking at how much it will cost them to bring food products into the country. And when these products come into the countries, it affects the normal price of commodities in the country. So we end up having imported inflation going up and affecting ordinary price of imported products on the market. So the city plays a critical role, which we've witnessed in the last couple of days, about 6.5% depreciation, and certainly some have said it's due to seasonal challenges, but we'll come to that shortly. And also, it's important for the government to also keep the inflation factors more considerable. Although there's been a steady global price commodities, we've seen gold price go high in the last couple of days. We've seen cocoa prices going high for the last 3 months, and this has been astronomical. Being Ghana, we know where we stand in terms of these commodities contributing enormously to our revenue outlook. And certainly, if you bring it down to the market, these are key consideration when it comes to checking out the inflation target and also regulating the commodity prices. As we know already, when it comes to ensuring the local market, especially gold, the gold board has come in to regulate the market, and this is something the government is quite optimistic to be able to ensure there's enough reserves in terms of dollar supply, and this will go already. The government has the benefit of 4 months of import cover, and it can use to ensure they can keep inflation tamed.
Now, I'm glad you mentioned the CD. I think based on data, you mentioned that the depreciation on a quarterly basis, looking at quarter three, I think it's down about 13.4%, compared to a number of other currencies versus the dollar. However, year to date is still up about 23%. What's been, you gave us a teaser there, so let's get into it. What have been the pressures that the CD has been facing that's led to this depreciation?
Now, the city, when it comes to these food baskets in Ghana, it appears that most of the market women and most of the businesses always look at the city before they decide their ordinary prices in the market. So last year, when the city was depreciating above 45%, it became a quite topical conversation. And consistently, if you go to the market, importers were quite vociferous about ensuring that this will not affect the ease of doing business and the confidence in investment. And most of them lost a huge chunk of profit because the forex margins became a key issue when they are buying their products. So if you look at the producer price inflation, it kept going high in 2024, but the appreciation in 2024-25 we experienced by about 40%, making it a huge chunk of investment, was quite a key conversation. Last week and this week, we've seen huge dollar demand by businesses because they understand it's more seasonal for them to require these dollars to transact business. We see the bulk oil distributors who import huge amount of oil into the market to ensure there's consistent supply in the domestic market. So if you look at the key concentration here, it's more about the business demand and the central bank's ability to supply. It's also been noted that we received the IMF tranche last month, and this is a boost to our forex outlook. And the central bank this week injected a huge amount of forex through dollar auction. And this is the highest they've done in a long time, and this gives some kind of positive optimism. This reflection will be felt hopefully next week, in the coming weeks, because already the sentiment of the market and the reaction and speculations that happened last week is what we are witnessing this week, which we've seen about 13.4% loss in the Ghana cities, and this, according to experts, are already being felt in the market. Today, the city is selling around 12 cities, and this is something that many are considering as a key trigger in this season. And probably, if you look at assessment from first and second quarter, this was to be expected in this period.
If we look at, and I remember we had you last year before the elections, and now that President Mahama is in office now, how much of what the economy has seen from the currency appreciation and so on and so forth, how much of any of this can be attributed to President Mahama's policies? Is he being given credit for any of this? What are the folks saying on the ground there?
So it's before the election, most of the conversation about the economy became a key consideration, comparing his previous achievement to the previous government's achievement. So it became kind of the issue of how beneficial is an economic policy and how does a policy reflect in the ordinary life of the individual. So when he won power in 2024, he came to the office in 2025, and the key conversation now has been his much touted campaign message, which is a 24-hour economy. It takes into consideration road, it takes into consideration key sectors, and this policy, according to the government, is a private sector driven. And so it's been on the loose now, and there's so much going on in the country now, especially. And another aspect of the 24-hour economy, which the government is rolling out, is ensuring that there is prudent spending. So the fiscal discipline is a key consideration here, and this has led to investor confidence and an improved rating for the country. We've been able to meet our debt obligations this year. Last month, the government was able to service some euro bonds, and this also gave some positive rating for investors in the country, telling them that indeed the country is ready for business. Another aspect which the central bank, the governor, is trying to do is ensure there's prudent regulation for the financial market. And consistently, there is open communication between the industry and the central bank when it comes to policy and how the central bank intends to roll out. So this is this outlook from both the monetary and fiscal part has been demonstrated by the government, and this, many have said, has given some positive outlook. So if you look at the projection for 2025, it's been positive, as apart from some few glitches and not too open aspect about the Trump's policy, how it will affect our export outlook. But nonetheless, if you look at the domestic front, it appears the government is putting out the foundation. When it comes to the economy, all the fundamentals looks quite positive for them. They will be able to meet the end-year target inflation, which has they've met it ahead of schedule, subject to certain external volatilities before the end of 2025. And another very important aspect that he said last week when he visited Japan and Singapore was that there is going to be a removal of minimum capital requirement for businesses who intend to do business in Ghana. And this has been a key hurdle for investors in a couple of years. So this, many are saying, will not necessarily take away business from the domestic economy, but will be a boost for economic thrive and money coming to the system.
What about, you mentioned cocoa. I mean, prices have been a bit volatile, but how are cocoa farmers faring in terms of, last time we spoke to you, there was a lot of talk about trying to increase the price of what they yield and sell to off-takers and so on. How are cocoa farmers faring so far?
When the price was promised, was 70% profit to go to the farmers, global profits go to the farmers. So we've seen this year cocoa prices in the international market going up because of the reduced supply in both Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana. And there's huge demand for it in the international market. The cocoa industry is booming globally, but the meeting the target has been a key challenge. So the cocoa farmers were expecting a 10% crop in 2025-2026 farming period, but they are faced with a huge hurdle, such as the illegal mining in most parts of Ghana, and this is a key challenge. And also there's pest and eating of some of the cocoa trees in the country, which they are saying it's not quite good, and the government has promised to increase a huge part of its investment in the cocoa sector. We've seen the Ghana Cocoa Board putting out some few strategies. Now, it appears the key challenge now is streamlining the financial outlook of the cocoa sector by taking away the cocoa rules investment and streamlining its budget outlook. And now, initially, there has been lack of concentration on the welfare of cocoa farmers, but it appears the Cocoa Board, which is the key agency managing the sector, is putting out the new dynamics. We are yet to see how this will roll out into the 2025-2026 outlook, especially whether we've been able to meet the target, whether we'll be able to go to the market, whether the cocoa farmers will be able to have the needed benefit as against the initial 70% increment in their farm gate price, which is to their benefit. But because of the appreciation of the cedi, when you calculate the cocoa farm gate price, it is a key component. And so if the cedi is around 15 Ghana cedis, they get better. If it's around 10 Ghana cedis, it gets down. So that has been a huge contention between the agency and the Minister of Finance, who is saying that it's something that we have to buy going forward.
Yeah, because the cedi appreciates, it makes Ghanaian exports more expensive. Look, Winston Taki, thank you so much for the outlook there. All eyes now on September the 17th, monetary policy decision there to see what happens with the benchmark rate. Winston Taki joining us from Accra, business journalist and analyst. Thank you so much for your time.